Namaste, let's go. Okay. There's a difference between a career and a calling, between a life you built to be accepted and a life you were made for. See, most people never find out what that difference feels like. This is about how you do. If you watched my video before this one, this is a piggyback off of that. So let's start with the word calling. In its original sense, across every spiritual tradition, every culture, every age, a calling wasn't something you chose. It was something that chose you, an inner pull, so specific, so persistent, that ignoring it required more energy than following it. The related word is anointing. The word comes from ancient practice, the act of being set apart, designated, if you will, not by your own ambition, but by something moving through you that is larger than your personality, larger than your preferences, larger than your fear. And anointing isn't arrogance, it's recognition. It means this is what you were configured for. And here's where it gets beautifully specific. Because a calling almost always announces itself through your gifts and your natural attractions, the things that came easily when everything else felt hard. So the child who couldn't stop making music, the person who walked into a kitchen and immediately felt at home, the one who was always drawn me to the deeper questions about consciousness, about spirit, about what's actually happening beneath the surface of this life. Those aren't coincidences. Those are indicators. Your gifts aren't decorations on top of your life. They are life. They're the language your calling speaks before you have words for what is. For me, it was always metaphysics. Before I even knew what metaphysics meant, it was always books. I was always reading the nature of consciousness, the mechanics of the inner world, how human beings transform, why they do what they do, how they get lost, and how they find their way back. Writing has always been that vehicle for me. And coaching has always been that expression for me before I even knew I was coaching. And the thread running through all of it always has been humanity. The deep, committed belief that people are more than they've been told they are. I'm an Aquarian. And those of you who know the archetype understand its orientation. Humanitarian, visionary, wired for the collective, drawn to systems of thought that serve something larger than the individual. But I want to be practical and precise about something important. I'm not defined by being an Aquarian. Neither are you defined by your zodiac sign. These archetypes, these configurations, these patterns, they are lenses, not cages. Because at the deepest level, you and I are both expressions of the same source, the same infinite intelligence that underlies all of it. What some call God, what some call source, what quantum physics is beginning to point toward as the field beneath all form. We pull from that clean, unlimited, unconditioned creative power. The archetype gives it a shape, but you are the one shaping it. You are the creator of your reality, not a fixed character within it. So how do you identify your calling? I would say there are 4 markers, right? They tend to show up together. The first is persistence. A calling doesn't arrive once and leave. It comes back repeatedly. You suppress it, it resurfaces. You talk yourself out of it, it waits. It has patience. You don't. If something has followed you across years, across different versions of yourself, across seasons where you actively try to move on from it, that's not obsession. That's orientation. The second is effortless depth. There are things people study for years and still feel like outsiders. And then there are things you understand almost naturally, where complexity draws you in, where learning feels like remembering. That natural fluency is a signal. Don't take it for granted. Most people dismiss their greatest gift because it comes too easily. Too easily to feel significant. And let's look at the third. The third is that it serves something beyond you. A calling always has direction. It moves towards others, towards healing, towards truth, towards awakening something in people that is dormant. Well, if what you feel drawn to do would still matter if you personally received nothing from it, no money, no recognition, no status, that's the signature of calling. that it costs you something to ignore it. When you are living out of alignment with your calling, when you are performing a life instead of a living, the body keeps score, the psyche keeps score, the quiet tension, that low-grade dissatisfaction, that feeling of moving through life wearing clothes that don't quite fit. That's not depression. That's not ingratitude. That's the signal you've been suppressing. I know what that signal feels like from the inside. Because in 2010, I went through what is classically called the dark night of the soul. It's a period of profound disorientation and collapse that spiritual traditions across history has recognized as a necessary passage. And it isn't pleasant, it isn't supposed to be. It is the psyche's way of making what is false unbearable so that what is true can finally rise. The dark night was showing me in the most unambiguous terms that I was not in alignment, not with my calling, not with my truth, not with who I actually was beneath everything I had built to be acceptable. And then came the out-of-body experience. Check out the video before this one. My encounter with my spirit guide, Joy, that being of light, that transmission, the teaching that dissolved as I returned to my body. And the final message delivered in that moment of loss: you will know everything you need to know when you need to know it. And that wasn't poetry, that was a guiding principle for the entire journey ahead. And here's what it actually looked like, and actually looks like to live it. I didn't know where that principle would lead me. I couldn't see the architecture of what I was building and what I am building, but I made a decision to move. I would act on and continue to act on what is true right now with what I had from where I was. And as I did, more was and is revealed. Not all at once, not on my timeline, but consistently, faithfully, in direct proportion to my willingness to keep moving. And I won't pretend that I received that with grace. I'm human. I wanted to know exactly what I was walking into and why. I wanted the map before I took the next step. Because there was resistance. And when I say resistance, there was real resistance. But what I learned through experience, not theory, was how to trust my next true step. Not the whole staircase, just the next step. And then the one after that, and the one after that. So then the process of learning to trust, of building that muscle through real practice, is actually what my prompt journal, Trust is the New Hustle, is about. And that's also on Amazon. It walks the reader through the lived experience of integrating guidance into forward movement. Not waiting passively, not bypassing the work, but learning to sense direction, discern the signal from the noise, and take aligned action from that place of inner knowing. It's a practical tool for people who are ready to stop outsourcing their direction and start trusting their own navigation. Now, this is big, about comparison. This is important, and I want to say it plainly. When you are on your own hero's journey, walking your own specific path with your specific gifts, shaped by your specific experiences, comparison is not helpful. It is incoherent. You are not on the same road as anyone else. You never were. Your calling has a different fingerprint. Theirs has a different fingerprint than yours. Your timing is different. Your assignment is different. Your version of self-actualization that belongs to you looks nothing like what it looks like for someone else. And it isn't supposed to, right? So comparing your path to another person's path is like an apple tree looking at an oak tree and deciding it's failing because it doesn't produce acorns. It was never meant to. So let them be what they are. Become what you are. And I want to speak directly to something Maslow understood deeply. Most people never reach self-actualization, not because they lack the calling, but because the hunger for safety, belonging, and approval is so powerful that they stop there and call it enough. They trade the life they were made for in exchange for a life that keeps them comfortable and accepted. The hero's journey is the decision to keep going past that. It costs something. It costs the false version of you that everyone else got. They became comfortable with it. It cost the approval of people who preferred you smaller. Imagine that. And is it worth every bit of that cost? And here's what I want you to understand. Just understand this about the path itself, because this part really matters. I still don't know exactly where this whole thing that I'm doing is heading, the books, the coaching, any of it, right? I don't. And I don't say that from a place of anxiety, but with a kind of grounded humility. I'm listening to inner guidance, to synchronicities, to epiphanies, to the way my life itself arranges and rearranges to the point in the right direction. I'm paying attention to what opens up and what closes, to what resonates and what rings hollow. And I don't always get it practically or precisely right. No one does. But here's what I've learned. If I chose a direction that isn't aligned, guidance finds a way to let me know. I sense it. There's a friction, a flatness, a quality of forcing rather than flowing. And that's not failure. That's the navigation system doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Which is why refining your senses is not optional on this path. It's essential. Because guidance doesn't always arrive as a dramatic sign. And more often it arrives as a quiet knowing, a subtle pull, a recurring theme, a feeling in the body that something is true or something is off. If your senses are dulled by noise, by distraction, by the constant consumption of other people's voices, you will miss it. Meditation, stillness, honest self-reflection, time in your own company. These aren't spiritual luxury. They are the tools that keep your instrument tuned so you can actually hear what's being communicated. Now, let me say something directly because I don't want this misunderstood. Following guidance does not mean abandoning structure. I plan. I set intentions. I build frameworks. I execute. Faith without works is dead, right? And that is not a metaphor. That is a law. The path does not carry you. You walk it. Guidance informs the path. It doesn't replace it. What I'm describing is an integration. You bring your full capacity, your intellect, your discipline, your creativity, your strategy, and you weave guidance through it. You don't wait passively for a sign before you take action. You act, and you remain open as you act. You sense as you move. You discern through experience, through engagement, through being in the field. You don't wait until you have the full plan, but you do plan. The difference is that your plan stays permeable. You hold it with commitment and openness simultaneously. And when guidance suggests a refinement, when something in you says, not this way, try that way, you've developed enough trust, enough sensitivity, enough honest relationship with your own inner knowing to recognize it. And that's not mysticism, that's mastery. And that is what you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it. It's all about. And that's what it means in practice. It means you don't need to have it all figured out before you begin. It means the wisdom that belongs to the next chapter of your path will arrive when you're living in it, not before. It means the calling doesn't require your certainty. It requires your movement. Your gifts are real. The pull is real. The anointing on your life is real. You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the next true step, because you will know everything you need to know exactly when you need to know it.